This is the BESV TCA 1.1. I've been wondering about this name, BESV. How do you pronounce it? It's a Dutch brand, so I talked to a Dutch guy and he couldn't make sense of it. So I looked at the BESV website and they said this name reflects the vision of the bike. It's beautiful, eco-friendly, smarter vision. That's a bit redundant, having vision in the name, I think. But okay, I'm gonna call it BESV because that's easier to say. This is a 140mm travel front, 130mm travel rear, 29er bike. We weighed it in at 24 kilos including pedals, so about 23.5 kilos. Carbon frame, a big 720 watt-hours battery by Darfun, and the Shimano EP8, the new version, the Shimano EP801 motor. So to remove the battery, you push this button on the lid, and it will. Then you unlock it with a 4mm Allen key. So it's a surprisingly small and compact battery actually, not too heavy. And the charge port is down here, and the lid is a strange design. It doesn't really stick, so it will bounce out when you ride, which isn't ideal, I would guess. I've ridden the new Shimano EP8 several times before, but this is the first time I've been riding it on my local trails for an extended period of time. And the new Shimano EP8, I think it's a great motor. It always was very strong and generous, lots of power amplification at lower cadence. And it always was easy to control. You could ride in gnarly sections, slippery conditions, in maximum assistance, and still it was surprisingly easy to handle and to control the motor. But the new motor, it is stronger over a wider range of cadences. The older motor would sort of drop off if you're going fast, close to cutoff speed, pedaling fast. This motor, the old EP8, would feel a bit weaker than much of the competition. That's not the case with the EP801. It responds much better to a higher cadence, higher pedaling frequency. So it's a much more complete motor than the old one, and it's still just as easy to handle. One sort of downside to having a generous motor is battery consumption. I know there is some talk about the Shimano motors being less efficient. I don't really think that's the case. I can ride this bike, pedal 80 watts at 60 RPM, and you'll get so much power. It will take you up most hills. And that, of course, means the motor is doing much of the work, and that, of course, takes a lot of battery. So you have to sort of step down the assistance a bit if you want to go far. We managed to drain the battery in less than 40 kilometers with about 1,000 meters of climbing. But drop the assistance a bit, take down the power amplification, the support, and you can easily double that or more or less. So looking at the specs, the RockShox Revelation 4, it might not sound that impressive. It's sort of a more basic version of the RockShox Pike, but it's a light fork, and combined with the Raceface Effect R wheel set, you get a very light front end. And as we have come to expect these days, an MTB should have a 12-speed drivetrain. I'm not really sure why, because I would prefer 10, 11 speed, like the Link Glide or just a basic Shimano Deore drivetrain. It's so much more durable, but okay. It's the Shimano SLX drivetrain with a Deore cassette, so the cassette is all steel, quite durable, and it's a nice drivetrain. What's even nicer is the brakes. The Shimano SLX brakes, I quite like them. Nice, powerful dual caliper brakes. Even though this is a lighter bike with lighter suspension, you still get nice grippy rubber. It's the Maxxis Minion DHF and a Maxxis Assegai. Both of them is the Max Terra rubber, and they are 29 by 2.5 inches. The TCA 1.1, it's the top of the line model with the shorter travel. It's got a carbon frame, And as you've noticed, the kit isn't top of the line, but that's sort of reflected in the price. Here in Norway, it's a very well priced bike, and I'm judging it as such. The recommended retail price is 6,995 euros. So that might not sound that cheap, but bike discounts are happening again these days. So check out the price where you live, and don't mind the retail price, I think. Looking at the Jump-Tre, you get a quite slack head angle at 65 degrees. And sure, there are bikes with slacker head angles, but this is supposed to be a less burly bike, shorter travel bike. And I think 65 is spot on, really. The wheelbase of the bike is 1269 millimeters. And that's a nice length for me, but it doesn't tell you much if you don't know the size of the bike, of course. And this is a size medium. The best bikes always has and still only comes in 3 sizes: small, medium and large. And this size medium, I really like the size of this bike. It's a big size medium. So for me, at 180-ish centimeters, it's a great fit. You might think it's a negative that it only comes in 3 sizes, and I can see why, because it won't fit the smallest and the tallest riders. But there's an upside too. I often find myself in between sizes, and I'm of average height, I would say, so a lot of people are about as tall as me. And the size medium should be a great fit for all of us. So there are upsides too with only having 3 sizes. Anyway, chainstay length 447 millimeters. That's not what I would call short, but it's noticeably shorter than what used to be the standard on these bikes, 455 millimeters. And I very much like the 447 length. It offers decent climbing stability, and it can still be a surprisingly nimble bike. It's a nice compromise. And finally, it's the C-tube angle, 78 degrees, nice and straight C-tube with, I guess, lots of seat post insertion. 78 degrees, yeah, nice and steep as per modern standards. So, riding the bike then. Yeah, I talked a bit about the motor. It feels strong on the climbs. The Jump-Tre lends itself reasonably well, quite well, to climbing. It's not a climbing specialist, but very few bikes are these days. You have to go like 470 chainstays and such, and there are not many bikes left with that kind of Jump-Tre. With a new motor, you can pedal really fast and still get lots of power. So going uphill at close to motor cutoff speed, it's a different experience than what it used to be with the old Shimano motor. But this thing is not really built for the steep stuff. It's more forest trails, trail riding, all mountain style riding. And it does so very well. The light front end makes it easy lifting the front, positioning the front, and combined with a very sharp, quick, fast steering, it's so easy being precise with the front wheel and positioning the bike as we see fit. The 1200 and almost 70 wheelbase makes the bike quite stable too. And sure, it's got a bit less travel than most other EMTBs, but for this kind of riding, we never missed more suspension travel. In fact, I quite appreciated it. It's a very responsive bike. It's a nice pop to the rear end, so it's easy making small jumps as you go along the trails to skip obstacles, for instance. We tried it on a few bigger jumps, and sure enough, we could bottom it out if we wanted to, so it's not a burly bike, and it never was intended to be. If you want a burlier BESV, check out the TCA version with 150, 160 mil or so travel. So yeah, we had a great time on this bike. Nicely spec'd, well-functioning kit. Never missed more suspension for this kind of riding, and What sort of surprised me the most, apart from, okay, it's got a decent weight for a big battery, detachable battery bike, but it was the geometry, I think. It's so on point, really modern, thought out geometry, I think. It looks great, feels great on the trails. And provided this bike is as well priced where you live as it is here, I can definitely recommend it. That's it. Appreciate any likes and subscribes. Thanks for watching.